Everybody, today's video is going to be all about making a grid. Okay, so for this project that we are working on currently, and any higher level art project, it's always a good idea to really push the perspective. Want to be using a camera, want to be taking a photo from some extreme unique angle. However, a lot of people won't even attempt to make art like this because they are not confident they'll be able to draw the extreme angles and the whole scene in proportion. So that's what today's video is all about, making a grid. Okay, if you know how to use a grid, you can really draw anything, no matter how crazy the perspective is. So normally here in class, I will just do all the math for you all. However, I think it's important for you to know how to make your own grids based on your own dimensions when you do personal projects and projects after high school over the summer, times when I'm not there. So let's get into it. A couple of things. Got a couple of things going on. First things first, like I said, we have math, okay? The very, very first bit of math that we're going to do is we got to ask ourselves, hey, how big is the surface that my artwork is, okay? I already measured the piece of paper, and it is, 16 by 20. Now we want to ask ourselves, what measurements are going to fit on a standard piece of paper? For those who don't know, standard piece of printer paper is going to be 8.5 by 11. So, real quick, easy way to do this, just take both of these numbers, divide them by 2. $16 divided by 2 is 8. 20 divided by 2 is 10. So we need our photo to print out at these exact dimensions. That way we can draw something that's going to be twice as big. And I guess the main piece of advice I would like to say is stick to whole numbers. Try and stick to numbers that are going to divide into other things evenly. It can get really out of hand pretty quick. And even if your piece of paper is 15 by 20 inches, you could, for a project like this, when everything's going to be distorted, abstract anyway, you could easily ballpark it into some numbers that are going to divide easier, like 16 and 20. Okay, moving on. A little bit of photo editing in here as well. This is a photo that I want to use as my reference. However, when it comes to really nailing down the proportions, sometimes when there are too many colors going on, things can get a little bit confusing. Also, if you are printing at home, colored ink is expensive. Printing things in black and white, real easy way to save money. So I'm just going to show you how to do that very quickly here. I'm in the Photos app. It looks like this color wheel flower looking thing. This is my reference photo I'm going to be using. Just go over here to edit in the top right. And right here where it says black and white, click any of these. Sometimes it gets a little bit muddy and the different gray tones and stuff, so you can sort of experiment messing with exposure, contrast, black point, trying to define things, figuring out, where are these lines, what are their proportions. That's looking pretty good to me. Click done. And then we're just going to go ahead and print. Now, when printing from the Photos app, you have so many more options for dimensions. Okay, 4x6, 5x7, 8x10. You can also even do custom, where you can literally type in any size at all. Depending on what your idea of what it calls for, okay? But luckily 8x10 is you know, a preset dimension in here. Let me show you real quick. If you don't go through the Photos app, you simply have a photo on your desktop here. Bring it up in preview, you go to print. We don't have these options at all. It just takes up the full page and that's how it is, okay? Anyway, went ahead and printed out this piece of paper. So the next step that we need to do is take a ruler and start laying down the grid, okay? Nothing too crazy here. However, one bit of advice I would like to bring up to everybody when it comes to, you know, drawing with a grid. We'll go this way. It's going to fit in the screen a bit better. When it comes to drawing with a grid, people think, oh, you know, the more boxes I make, the easier it's going to be. I personally don't really find this the most efficient way of doing things. I like to have the least amount of boxes as possible. If you're decent with pencil measuring, there's a specific area that's, you know, complicated, there's a lot of stuff going on, you should be able to figure it out. I don't know, some people will make a tick mark every ½ inch or every ¼ inch, all these little boxes, and it can just get really confusing. So I recommend, you know, for this size that we're going for today, I would recommend every, you know, 2 inches, okay? So make a tick mark at every 2 inches. 2, 4, 6, 8. Down the one side. Now keep in mind, we are not measuring from the corner of the paper, we're measuring from the corner of the picture. So line up the corner of the picture with the 0 and go from there, okay? You just make all of those dots at every 2 inches. Here's a preview of what it looks like when it's all done. I like to maybe figure out the tick marks in pencil, and then, you know, especially since it's black and white, pencil's not going to show up that great. I just kind of went over the lines in Sharpie. Now that's all that's left to do. Take your large piece of paper and what happens with this is we end up having to do one last bit of math when it comes to figuring out where we put our tick marks. Since these numbers up here are twice as big as these numbers down here, that means, hey, if I went every 2 inches for my tick marks on the small piece of paper, I would just multiply that number by 2, and when it comes to my piece of paper that's 16 by 20 inches, I'm going to go every 4 inches because 2 times 2 is 4. So anyway, that is it for the explanation on how to make any grid at any size. You know, when it comes to this stuff, I really try to keep the math as simple as I can. Math is not one of my strong suits. However, you know, if you're out there and you're someone who is really gifted at math. It comes easy to you. Maybe you have your own better, different way of doing this. But either way, that's it for me today. Peace out, and good luck with the grid.